how do you become an English professor? My name's Nina Ellis, Dr. Nina Ellis, and I'm about to start my first full-time, one-year position as an assistant professor of English and comparative literature and creative writing here in Egypt. I'll be keeping this video diary along the way as a way of chronicling the highs, lows, and pleasant surprises of my experience. I'm hoping that this will give you an insight into the life of an assistant professor, and that it will be encouraging for other academics looking to get into the field, and perhaps a little bit of solidarity to people who are on this journey with me. Today's my birthday and I start my orientation week on Thursday, so I thought it would be a good time to begin. I'll start by looking at the process of being hired as an English professor. You can hear the horns outside. Obviously, the high is that I got the job, and the way in which I got the job really made me very happy. I had just had a baby. I'd moved to Egypt already for my husband's job, and I'd been here for about 6 months. And so I reached out to the chair of the English department at the university where I'll be teaching. And I said to her, you know, I have many years of experience as an adjunct professor, I've got my PhD, I just finished my PhD, and I'm curious about teaching here in Egypt. And the chair of the English department, who really is an angel, said, you know what, I'm so glad you contacted me because we have an assistant professor job coming up, just 1 year, but I think it would be perfect for you. And she talked me through the whole application process. I felt really encouraged by that, and it also helped me to feel just so much more confident about applying for a role that I sort of felt was out of my league. When I contacted her, I assumed that she might give me some adjunct work. I never thought that it would be a full-time position, so that was wonderful. I still had to go through the whole applications process, of course, but a few months later I got the job. And I would say the real highlight of that process for me was that relationship that I established with the chair of the English department. I'd say the pit of my experience so far in the whole process of being hired as an assistant professor would probably be the fact that I realized that because this is an American system and I got my PhD in the UK system, I have to / get to design all of my own courses, which is loads of work. I knew that I'd be starting this job in September, and I found out that I had it in June, so I had the summer to prepare these courses. But I also had to submit the book that I've been writing in that time, so I've turned my PhD into a mainstream book. My PhD was on an amazing North American short story writer called Lucia Berlin, and I'm under contract to turn that into a trade biography called Looking for Lucia, and you can sign up to my Substack if you want to follow the progress of that book. But that is due in like 2 days. So obviously I knew that I'd have quite a stressful summer. Also, because it's just a 1-year position, I'm already thinking ahead to next summer and what my employment will be then. So I spent much of the summer applying for postdoctoral fellowships. Of course, that was a lot to balance with a baby who had just learned to crawl, who I was chasing everywhere, and I'm still chasing everywhere. And also to balance with the major challenge of writing these new courses. But there's a positive side to that as well, because the pleasant surprise in all of this was the freedom that I got in designing my own courses. So I'll be teaching a short story writing course in the autumn, and I got to choose all the short stories we'd be reading and all the craft texts that would be supporting these. I'm also teaching a world literature class, which I'm really excited about, and I got to choose the theme, so I decided to go for writing on the road. I'll be teaching texts about movement, non-fiction, fiction, poetry, covering the experience of traveling to study, traveling to work, traveling as a refugee, as an economic migrant, as a tourist, for love. My third course in the autumn is an introductory course for freshmen, which I was a little bit daunted by, and so I needed something really catchy as my theme. So I decided to go for the theme of literary rebels, because I think, you know, even if you're being forced to take an English course and you're not interested in literature, we've all rebelled in one way or another. And I'll also be teaching French, English, Indian, and Japanese mid-century film, because that's a special interest of mine, and there were a lot of films made during that time about rebellion. So it's been such a treat to get to design my own courses, such a gift, and I'd say that was the pleasant surprise of the experience. As I said, I'm starting my orientation in just a few days, so I'm very nervous, but I will check in again in a week. Thank you so much for following me along the way. You can also follow me on Instagram, where I post lots of stuff, TikTok, where I post writing motivation videos, and you can check out my website and sign up to my Substack, which is called Looking for Lucia, and that's the name of the book that I've been writing, and that I should go back to writing now because I really need to finish it before I start this job. Bye!